Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers across the land, welcome back to the Felony Friday podcast. Don't fret if this is the first episode you've stumbled across, if you found us on iTunes or you found us Googling the web. This is the second episode that we've had of the Felony Friday podcast, and it follows up a column that I've written for about 2.5 years called Felony Friday, where I would look into a lot of ridiculous felonies, a lot of failures in the criminal justice system, and analyze them. I was doing that for about the past 2.5 years, and now we finally started this podcast. So the reason we started this podcast, or I wanted to start this podcast, and I talked about it with the other contributors with Lions of Liberty, is because we really wanted to have a little more time to dive into different felonies that happen throughout the week. So who I have with me today to dive into a couple felonies. We're going to talk about some felonies trending in the news and talk about a couple. We're going to follow up with our segment at the end that we introduced last week, which is titled, Is This a Crime and Should Anyone Do Time? So first, let me introduce the co-host for today, my co-host for today, Mr. Howie Snowden.
Hey, Odie. Glad to be here on the newest podcast under the Lions of Liberty umbrella.
It's good to have you here, Howie. And listeners have probably recognized Howie's voice from Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor, and I think he's been on almost every presidential debate recap we've done. But a lot of people might not know this. Howie is kind of a famous person around Lions of Liberty. He's known affectionately by us around here as the Godfather of Lions of Liberty. So, Howie, could you tell us a little bit about that backstory of how you got that nickname?
Sure. I mean, I may be the Godfather of Lions of Liberty, but I owe it all, like most supporters of Liberty do nowadays, to Ron Paul. Back when I was 17, I was a congressional page, and that was Ron Paul was a congressman at the time, just sitting there, hearing him give speeches every day. Got to meet him a few times and talk to him in his office. The light of liberty was sparked in me, and met you guys in college and got Mark head down that road. And now, I'm so impressed with what you've done with all this, with Lions of Liberty, and now with Felony Friday, since the plight of felons is such an important thing to highlight. I mean, the miscarriage of justice in this country is ridiculous. And I mean, the only person right now even speaking about it is Rand Paul, a libertarian leaning Republican. And it's, the more we can do to shine the light on this, the better.
Yeah, it's a very important subject. And like you said, Rand Paul has shined the light, and now other presidential candidates, I don't know if you've seen Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, are now jumping on the criminal justice reform bandwagon as well. Hillary's past, as our listeners well know, doesn't exactly align with the rhetoric she's spouting today, but that's still okay. I mean, that's good. We'll take it where we can get it, even though she's probably just doing this to score political points.
Of course.
But Howie, I wanted to ask you about, you've actually, along the way, when I've been writing this Felony Friday column, I mean, you've sent me probably, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 of the articles of the stories that I followed up on and covered. You probably sent them to me and gave me the idea for writing them. So I know that felonies are important to you. The plight of felons, as we call it on this show, the struggles of felons is an important thing to you. Is there anything that has really triggered that passion for you? Sure.
I mean, definitely, for the most part, it's been, with personal experiences, the war on drugs has been an absolute miscarriage of justice. I know me and you both personally know people who have had incidents with marijuana that have screwed up their lives. I have somebody very close to me who their brother ended up spending 5 years in jail on an ecstasy charge. And just afterwards, okay, maybe somebody made a mistake, if we want to call it that. Your life is screwed. You can't get a job. I mean, if you got a college degree nowadays and a clean criminal record, it's hard enough to get a job. But trying to rebuild after a felony charge is damn near impossible. And it's just something that's got to change, especially for something like the war on drugs, where people are given a substance that they want, and these aren't necessarily dangerous things. They actually, a lot of illegal drugs have a lot of medical value. And I mean, Mark's had people on from MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Agency of Psychedelic Studies, that have been doing, tests with MDMA improving PTSD and all that. And I mean, we all see in the news every day, all these things with marijuana benefiting kids with epilepsy, treating cancer, all kinds of things. And the research isn't even hardly allowed to be done on these things. So besides people getting these felony sentences that like completely derail their lives, or people that are users, and these are people that need our help and our sympathy, not a jail sentence. This is just causing so much destruction in our country, and it's I don't know, get worked up talking about it.
Yeah, no, it's an important topic. I mean, that's why we have this show. It's great to hear the passion coming from you. I wanted to kind of shift here and start talking about some specific felonies that have been trending in the news over the past week or 2 weeks. And one thing that I'm sure is near and dear to your heart, being a dog owner, I see the pictures that you post on Facebook of you and your dog.
Yep.
The FBI is now considering animal abuse a Class A felony. And this is actually something the FBI announced this change originally back in 2014. And they're finally starting to collect some data on it. Now, animal abuse or cases of animal cruelty fall into 4 different categories: neglect, intentional abuse and torture, organized abuse, and sexual abuse of animals.
Yep.
The FBI's decision here,
I think there may, just to clarify a little bit, I read a Vice article about this recently today, and I was reading through the comments on that. And I don't think, if I read it correctly, that the FBI is considering this a Class A felony, but they're going to start tracking it like a Class A felony, like they do with violent crimes and arson, this and that. I think they're going to keep a database, which, we could get into if it should be a felony or not, but I think definitely for sure people like this should be tracked like that. Because, we know most like violent criminals, I think the stats like 70% of them start like harming animals first, and like all the like serial killers and like complete psychopaths, like people that would abuse an innocent animal. If that's what they're doing, they're just, tracking these instances of abuse and keeping a record of it. I'm all for that for sure.
That is a pretty amazing stat. You've got it exactly right. 70% of violent criminals begin by abusing animals. I'm not sure how they gather that statistic. If they're going back
I'm sure it may be higher or lower slightly, but I'm pretty sure there's like extensive interviews done with like serial killers and whatnot, or people like that. There's all the psychological profiles built up studying this kind of thing. The point is, like, even if you're not a huge animal lover like me, the fact that this has a real human impact. If you care about humans, if you care about yourself, this should be something you want to track. And now, whether it should be a felony or not, I might not be the one to know exactly what all that entails, but I do think that it intentionally harming or torturing like a sentient being, like something that can suffer, should have, a harsh penalty with like some jail time.
It's kind of an interesting thing when you think about, there's some cultures that actually eat dogs or eat cats. And obviously in our culture here in the United States, that would be insane. You'll rightfully be thrown in prison for doing something like that.
Which is a little arbitrary. I'm not a vegetarian or anything. I just think that, humans are at the top of the food chain. We should be able to use animals for food, but, they should be afforded, a decent life up until that time and a humane death. That's why I am a big proponent of hunting. I think hunting is way better than factory farming and a lot of what goes on, in those kind of situations. But, I would like to see animals treated a lot better. I know if somebody were to harm or, like, kill my dog, God forbid, I would react as if someone had killed my child, and it would not be good for the offending party.
Yeah, maybe a little less extreme case. When we talk about one of the 4 categories is organized abuse, like cockfighting or dogfighting, but yet horse racing and dog racing are completely legal. Maybe not in every state, but they're definitely legal in many states. How can the feds really draw that line saying you can't do certain things with dogs, but yet you're allowed to race them, or you're allowed to race horses? I'm not necessarily saying I agree or disagree with it, but it seems like a really fuzzy line that seems like it favors just certain pastimes, maybe simply because they're pastimes and accepted in our culture.
It comes down to there's no perfect answer, and being a libertarian, I'm reluctant to want to put this in the government's court to do something about. But if we do have a government, we kind of want them to protect those who can't take care of themselves. And now I'm not saying that, animals are equal to humans or anything like that, but I think they deserve like some modicum of respect and some kind of decent treatment. I don't know the exact answer, but if the way I read what the FBI is doing now is just tracking animal abusers the way they would track violent criminals or arsonists, I think that's an okay thing. I'm good with that.
I think you're right. I tend to agree with you. When you talk about this being, tracking animal abuse is a role of government and a need of government. I think I agree with you. I don't think it's necessarily a role of government the way we think of government today. It's this coercive force that government has become. But when you think of it as maybe a group of people in a community coming together, maybe deciding, based on their beliefs and their values, that they don't want to harm certain animals, that they want to respect animals, and building a legal system that way, that's probably, in my opinion, maybe the most moral way to handle something like this, rather than, when we talk about different cultures having, different values regarding different types of animals. I think that's probably the most moral way to carry it out. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this is a different function of government. We're not talking about them being like glorified revenue collectors, pulling people for this and that, giving you, people doing things that aren't harming anybody and just finding you for these arbitrary reasons, but actually like preventing suffering. And, I don't think morality is just restricted to interactions between human beings. And again, not saying animals are equal, but I think we deserve them, a certain amount of respect.
Yeah, animals and humans definitely aren't equal. I mean, there might be some animal rights activists that would spout that, some extremists, but if a bear or a wolf kills someone, you can't put that bear on trial for murder. You can't, punish them for killing someone. They're not going to understand any of the punitive damages or the consequences that you're trying to place on them. So let's move on from this topic. I think that was a pretty good discussion. I think we came to a pretty good consensus there. But let's move on to another thing trending in the news here. I just saw this last night, and it's not really a felony per se, but it's my show, so I can do whatever I want. This has to do with, in Arizona, there's a state senator who is trying to criminalize the recording of cops in public. So this legislation would require people to be at least 20 feet away while recording law enforcement activity. If the officer decides that, you have to be farther away, then he could tell you to move farther back.
I think that's the rub there. 20 feet, which, most people say, well, that sounds kind of reasonable, in most cases. But unless the officer decides farther means the rule is if the cop doesn't want to be filmed, the cop's not being filmed. And we've seen time after time recently, I mean, thank God to the advent of cell phones and everybody having a camera in their pocket, the abuse of power that goes on in this nation, and especially in the minority communities. And it's, I don't know, there may be some legitimacy for, okay, we need to have people 20 feet away or so, but the way things are going, I say no. I say cops should be filmed all the time when they can. If they're doing everything right, it's going to protect them. I mean, most cops I know are good cops, and they deal with a lot of crazy freaking people. It's just going to exonerate them in everything they do and show what they go through. The only reason to have a rule like this where it's pretty much the cop's discretion, what gets taped or what doesn't, it's way not in favor of the average citizen. I mean, we have a real problem here where the cops are no longer here to protect and serve. They are revenue collectors. They are, was it Freddie Gray, the one who was choked to death for selling loose cigarettes in New York City? I mean, come on.
Freddie Gray was in Baltimore. Oh. He was the one they put him in the back of the van, handcuffed, okay. And he got severe neck damage. Eric Garner was, right. Eric Garner was the man in New York City that was one of the
worst ones that I've seen recently. There was no reason for that to end a man's life, or even who was selling loose cigarettes. I mean,
it was terrible. The other twist part on this is if you're recording inside someone's home, they're going to make you move to the adjacent room or adjacent area where you probably won't even be able to see, what the cop's doing.
And you're not going to get audio. In a lot of cases.
You're not going to get audio.
All the things that are important to for a jury, for anyone to decide what actually happened, what is going on. Are people being just? Are people being treated fairly?
I think it's really a way to – it's definitely a protection. They say the camera's the new gun, or not even the camera, the phone, since everyone's phone is a camera now.
Yeah.
But it's a protection for protection for
they sure don't mind recording us everywhere. There's cameras everywhere.
Exactly. There's cameras everywhere. The story behind this, I just want to touch on it real quick. It's kind of ridiculous. So the lawmaker in this case is Senator John Kavanaugh, Republican, Arizona state senator. Before he was a state senator, he was a New York City cop. And back in the 70s, he was arresting a bandmate of Wilson Pickett from the popular group Mustang Sally at JFK International Airport. And so he has this guy against the wall, and I guess he found a syringe on him in a case or something. And then Wilson Pickett comes over, and asked them, like, what's going on? Is this going to take a while? And I guess this cop claims that when Wilson Pickett asked him that, he turned around and the guy that he was frisking threw a bag of heroin behind a TV to hide it. So that's his justification for not letting people film, is because Wilson Pickett distracted him. I don't know. That's just a pretty funny backstory there.
That's absurd. I mean, in even that case, so what, you want to arrest Wilson Pickett, destroy his life, destroy his livelihood because he had heroin on him? I mean,
exactly.
Heroin is one of the most demonized drugs out there. But you know what? The cases are when people die from it, most of the times it's when what they buy isn't actually heroin, or when people are mixing that with other drugs and alcohol things. But as itself, I don't think people should be doing heroin, but it's, it's a pretty strong painkiller, and it's, a lot of people have problems with it. There's a pretty good treatment, Iboga, which is illegal in the U.S., but you're going to just destroy a man's life over that. And also, because someone almost got away with it, now we're going to let cops not be filmed and get away with all the abuses that we see cataloged every freaking day. Every time I turn on the news, it's another cop unjustly shot or killed someone, this and that. And it's, like everything else, if it bleeds, it bleeds. It's on the news. I don't want people to think I'm anti-cop or anything. I'm not at all. I think most cops do an excellent job, but there's a lot of things going on that, filming things is only going to showcase the guilty, and it's going to exonerate the innocent, and it's...
Yeah, this show is not, and maybe people who've stumbling across this, listen to it, think this is an anti-cop show or bashing cops. I don't hate cops. My grandfather was a cop. I have respect for... There's a need in society for law and order. So I have a respect for the function of police officers. What's happened, though, is cops have become, instead of serving us and protecting us, they are just intervening in every little detail of our lives based on the law that they're,
it's not their fault.
It's not necessarily all their fault. That's not to let them off for doing it.
The incentives they're giving. Police departments get more money for busting people on drugs, not for stopping murders and rapes or violent crimes, things that we want them to be out there protecting us from, but for the war on drugs and all this other nonsense. That's what gets rewarded. And I'm sure a lot of people join with the greatest intentions in the world, want to make the world a better place, but the system is just broken. And, all we can do is shine a spotlight on it or, film these interactions until things are done right.
Yeah, if anything, filming these cops should really be for their own safety. It should help them do their job in the end. Let's turn the page to the next segment of the show. This is something that we're trying out. We're calling it, Is This a Crime and Should Anyone Do Time? So I've got two stories this week. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little introduction of the story for you, Howie, and then I'll ask you, is this a crime and should anyone do time?
All right.
So the first story, it's from Arkansas, Jefferson County, Arkansas. A woman is in a grocery store shopping, and she leaves her wallet with $900 in the shopping cart and leaves. When she comes back in to get her wallet back, someone had turned the wallet in, but it was empty. The money was gone. There was surveillance video.
$900, you said?
The $900 was gone, yeah. There was surveillance video showing, this another woman coming up to the cart, seeing this wallet or purse in there, calling someone on the phone, I guess asking someone, should I take this money? Heck yeah, take that money. Taking the money out and then turning the wallet in with nothing in it. So they still haven't caught the thief yet, but this is, the police are saying that this is a felony for stealing the money and turning the wallet back in empty. So I guess a couple different questions here or interesting aspects.
Okay.
In this instance, do you agree that this is a crime, and when they catch this woman, she should be punished? Should she do some time for her crime?
This is for sure a crime. She picked up a wallet with someone's ID in it. She knows whose money this is. She robbed this woman, or this, did you say it was a woman? This person of,
yeah, woman.
$900. I'm not sure if in this day and age, if $900 should be the rise to the level of a felony. Crime for sure, though.
Felony
on who
seems
you are, that's
a little bit much.
That could be your rent for your apartment for a month. That could be, that's a big deal. And it's not like she just found some cash on the street. She doesn't know, how can I really know who this is? It's in someone's wallet with their ID. For sure, it's immoral. It's wrong. It's a crime. I think we need to protect people when we can from theft, from violence. This woman should probably do a little bit of time. I don't know if this is felony worthy, but crime and time for sure.
I'm going to agree with you. Definitely a crime, but maybe not time, maybe just a fine if we want to keep on rhyming.
You're right, especially if, the woman that was robbed is paid back and, restitution is made and there should be some kind of penalty to, the goal should be, not only like a punishment, but to teach, try to rehabilitate people. I don't know.
I'm definitely on the same page as you. You can't just allow people to go around and steal other people's property. I mean, it'd be the same thing if it was a bike and someone, took a wheel off her bike or took the entire bike. You're stealing someone's property. Yeah. I mean, that can't be acceptable.
There's nothing different than this than if there was an unattended cash register and she reached in and took it. It's a wallet with an ID. It's someone else's.
Exactly.
Crime.
So there you heard it. You heard it. Crime, and on to the next one. So we've got one more here.
All right.
And this one is it's probably a familiar storyline here that we've heard many times before from the FBI. So the FBI is being accused of, or this article, I should say, that I read is accusing the FBI of setting up an 18-year-old with a very low IQ of 51, setting him up into being a terrorist, and then not prosecuting the case themselves. I guess being kind of running away from this and turning this over to local prosecutors. So this occurred in Alabama, and the 18-year-old has been charged with soliciting or providing support for an act of terrorism. The support you're thinking of, how much was it? What kind of support was it? Was it thousands of dollars? No, it was $1,000 that I guess was contributed to some terrorist group, maybe upon some FBI guy's direction, trying to entrap him.
Without even knowing any details, I would acquit this kid. Not because I'm not saying he didn't do something wrong, that he didn't commit a crime, but this has to stop. I think just about every thwarted terrorist attack that this nation has faced since 9/11 has been the FBI setting up gullible idiots to do shit that, they don't give them real bombs, don't give them real this, nothing happens. And they're just, because of that, we get the Patriot Act, we get, all the NSA nonsense, and we're losing our freedoms based on fake crimes that they're creating, that they're setting up patsies, fools that otherwise would do nothing wrong. And even if what this kid did was a crime, this message has to be sent. We're not going to convict people in this. I mean, it should be like, I don't know, what do they call it when evidence isn't allowed in court, or so when it's collected wrong, or, it has to be stopped. It can't happen. It's absurd. I mean, I'm sure this poor kid, granted, is that even like, that's like mentally challenged IQ.
Yeah, I think you're saying the right thing calling him a kid. His friends and family refer to him as a child. He is 18 years old, but his IQ is so low, he can't even tie his own shoes, and he soils his clothes. And according to them, his verbal skills are awful, and he lacks the ability to distinguish between reality and fantasy.
We have these arbitrary determinants of age. It's like one day you're 17, the next day you're 18, and so that means a different thing. And we all know everyone's different. So when I'm looking at this, hearing that this kid, in my eyes, with this low IQ and this functioning, is just, he's been used. He's been set up and used. He may have done something wrong, but I would not convict him of it. I would want some kind of repercussions for the FBI agents involved in this. I mean,
and I think that's why they're turning this over to the local prosecutors, because it's just, this is going to be some bad press for the FBI if this gets out.
Hopefully some of the local people know about jury nullification and things like that.
Hopefully. I mean, it really is a sad case. The kid actually, he's being charged, so it's a Class C felony. Normally it results in a pretty low bail amount. He's being held in jail right now. He's in prison on $1 million bail. Just to put that in perspective, this judge, his name's Alan Fuhr. He had 2 accused murderers and a teacher who was charged with sexual misconduct, that they only had $450,000 bail. So this is a mentally challenged 18-year-old kid who donated $1,000 supposedly to a terrorist organization, is in jail on $1,000 bail, and 2 murderers, people who are accused of killing someone, and someone who sexually abused a student, are out for less than half of that. It's just backwards. But it's the broken criminal justice system, and it has to stop, and that's why we're doing this show. And that's why I had you on, Howie, because I know you share the passion that I have for criminal justice reform and for notifying, for raising the alarm.
I think Americans in general just have we care about fairness. Like the American people just, when they see and know these things are going on, they're outraged. We're seeing like the outcry with, all these different movements nowadays. Like people want justice. This country is supposed to be about liberty, about justice, equality.
It's supposed to be, and I don't know if most Americans want that. I think a growing number are kind of more aware than they were maybe 10, 15 years ago of how broken things are just because of social media and YouTube and the videotaping of cops, like we talked about earlier. That's taken everything a step forward, I think. But unfortunately, Howie, we're trying to keep these shows to half hour. It's really hard to do because it's so easy to talk about this stuff.
Right. Well, hey, I appreciate you shining a spotlight on this and trying to raise the public's awareness. Kudos, my man.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on.
Anytime.
Everybody listening out there, if you haven't done it yet, please go to iTunes, leave a comment there, subscribe on iTunes. Rate the podcast. If you're not an iTunes person, if you're not into that, if you don't have an iPhone or an iPad, you can go to Stitcher and do the same thing there. Subscribe to the podcast there. Make sure to check out the show notes. They will be at lionsofliberty.com/FF2. We keep it real simple. 2 letters and a number. It's simple. It's easy. lionsofliberty.com/FF2. Check out the show notes. Also, this show is going to air on our affiliate throughout the week, LRN.FM. It's probably airing right now, hopefully. So you can check the Felony Friday podcast out there, which is this show, and you can check out the other shows we have on the Lions of Liberty podcast with our host, Mark Clare, who, he has great interviews every week, and we have our Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor, and we have our debate reaction shows, which are happening all the time because it's presidential election season. It's been another great show. Thank you again, Howie, for coming on. Any last parting words?
No, anytime. Appreciate what you guys are doing.
All right, then. So with that being said, this is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fire of liberty burning.